Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today, as usual, man. You guys know the deal on this channel. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting history, guys. And in this video, we're going to talk about Steve Smith. That's right. I don't know if you guys remember Steve Smith. Played in the 90s into the early 2000s. I want to say he played from 92 to 2005, I want to say, man, somewhere around there, Steve Smith. And he's just really one of those solid players from the 90s era of NBA, shooting guards, 6'8". I want to say he's about 6'8", yeah, somewhere around there, maybe 210 pounds, somewhere around there. Just a really solid all-around player, Steve Smith, man. Really nice jump shot from the mid-range. Like I said, just a really good player, man. I want to talk about Steve Smith in the 1992 NBA playoffs, his rookie season, because Steve Smith as a rookie was impressive, man. Going against the defending champion Chicago Bulls in that first round in the 92 playoffs, man. I want to talk about Steve Smith real quick in this video, man, because I told you guys I've been watching some old videos of Chicago Bulls in the playoffs, and I was watching the 92 series against the Miami Heat in that first round. And Steve Smith was very impressive, man, as a rookie in that series, man. And I wanted to give Steve Smith a little love, shout out on this channel, man. So much respect to Steve Smith, man. We're going to talk about in this video, man. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states has been supporting my channel. Once again, guys, I am truly humbled, man. Thanks, everybody, on the membership. You guys donate to my channel. Thank you very much. You comment, you like my videos. You guys email me, you share me your stories. I mean, all that stuff, guys. It says truly humbling, man. So much respect to all you guys out there, man. Thank you. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, shout out to Steve Smith, man. You know, he's a guy that really never gets mentioned much as far as, 90s era of NBA. And I get it, man. The NBA talent was deep in the 90s, guys. It really was. And that's really what, we're alluding to when we talk about the 80s and the 90s, or the 90s in specifically. And then people try to say it's an expansion era, it's watered down, blah, 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 blah. Michael Jordan didn't play against anybody, all these things. There was a lot of talent. So guys get lost in the shuffle, right? You don't mention guys like Mitch Richmond or, some of these other guys. You don't mention a Steve Smith, a Kevin Johnson I've talked about, doesn't get mentioned much, Mark Price. Some of these other guys that you forget about that were really good players that to me should be Hall of Famers, a Mark Price, a Kevin Johnson, but they're not in the Hall of Fame, and they're not in the Hall of Fame because the talent of the NBA at that time. There were guys like that just like I said, that were in the league, and you gotta get overshadowed. So when we think about someone like Steve Smith, for example, once again, another guy that came in the 90s, man, a really solid player that doesn't get mentioned much. And I wanted to talk about Steve Smith in this video because, like I said, I was watching the 1992 playoffs of the Chicago Bulls versus the Miami Heat in the first round. And this was the first year that the Miami Heat that made the playoffs, right? They were an expansion team that came into the NBA. I want to say, I think in the 88-89 season, I want to say was their first year. I don't know if I'm right about that. But they were an expansion team that was in the playoffs for the first time in 1992. And, the team that they had was a very good team, man. They were a very, very solid team of the Miami Heat. And they were actually coached by Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's first coach, Kevin Loughery. They were coached by him. And it was, the Bulls swept the Miami Heat. But it's not about the wins and the losses, man. When we talk about Steve Smith, man, he was very impressive, man. When I watched the games, like I said, as a rookie, man, he was being guarded by Scottie Pippen. We're talking about prime Scottie Pippen, 92 Pippen. He was being guarded by Michael Jordan oftentimes in those games. And he was playing point guard. They had Steve Smith playing point guard in that series. So he was about 6'8", like I said, playing point guard position for the Miami Heat. And he had a very good series, man. Like I said, he was very impressive as a rookie. Like I said, just the game that he had, the jump shot, a smooth jumper, man. I think he averaged about 16 points a game in that series, like 5 assists, a couple of rebounds. Wasn't a great rebounder or a solid rebounder like that. But like I said, man, he could shoot the ball, had a really nice mid-range stroke. And like I said, he just did a lot of the other things, man. Like I said, he gave effort on the court. He hustled, man. He was just a solid player, Steve Smith, man. I always liked his game. Always liked his personality. Like I said, the way he carried himself, man. I always respected Steve Smith out there. I believe Steve Smith won a championship, I want to say, with the 2003 San Antonio Spurs. I want to say he was on that team. I believe Steve Smith was actually on the 2000 Portland Trailblazer team also. that had a lot of talent that Scottie Pippen was on, that went to the Western Conference Finals, that was actually up on the Los Angeles Lakers. They were beating the Lakers by like 20 points in that fourth quarter in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, and the Lakers came back and beat them. But Steve Pippen was on that team with, Pippen and Arvydas Sabonis and Rasheed Wallace, and Damon Stoudemire was on that team, I believe. I believe they had like a young Bonzi Wells on that team. They just had good players on that team, man. But on that Miami Heat squad, you had Steve Smith, a rookie Steve Smith. You had Brian Shaw on there, who was a solid player. You had Glenn Rice, who was a really good player. Once again, another player doesn't get mentioned much. Glenn Rice, like I said, in this era, he would be sensational, Glenn Rice, in this era. But you don't really hear about Glenn Rice. He's not in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't get mentioned much because of the era he played in the 90s. We're stacked with great players. But Glenn Rice was on that team, man. He was their best player. You had Ronnie Cycli on that team, who's another, like I said, doesn't really get mentioned much. I mentioned Ronnie Cycli's name several times on this channel, but it doesn't really get brought up much about the guys, the big men of the 90s, because you had the premier big men in the 90s. Once again, it was a renaissance for big men in the 90s. So the guys like Rick Smits, the guys like Ronnie Cycli, the Kevin Duckworths, these guys don't get mentioned as much. They don't get really brought up. But Ryan Cycli was a very good player. I believe Ryan Cycli averaged like 20 points per game in that series, man. Listen, don't forget, the Chicago Bulls did not have great big men, right? They didn't have, Bill Curry wasn't this great defensive big man. He was a big body. But guys like Will Perdue, Stacey King, these were not great big men. So oftentimes, the other team's bigs could dominate. That's why in the 91 finals, Vlade Divac was going nuts. They couldn't stop Vlade Divac. They couldn't stop him. Bill Curry had no answer for Vlade Divac. The dude was doing whatever he wanted out there. Rebounding, scoring the ball. They couldn't stop him. Same thing with the Kevin Duckworth, right? Bill Cartwright, he struggled against these guys, man. And we talk about the Ronnie Cycli against the Chicago Bulls, man. He was having a really good series against the Bulls, man. But Steve Smith, man, when I was watching Steve Smith, like I said, competing against Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, consistently on both sides of the ball, man, Steve Smith was present. He was there, giving the effort. Like I said, competing against two of the greatest two-way players or two of the greatest defenders in the NBA at that time. In the NBA. This is 1992, prime Michael Jordan at peak athletic form, Scottie Pippen in peak athletic form, and these guys were guarding Steve Smith. And Steve Smith was holding his own against these guys, being very impressive doing so as a rookie, man. And once again, we must understand something. We talk about rookies, right? Back in the 90s, back in the day in general, guys went to school for several years. So you went to school for 3-4 years and you came as a rookie, but you were developed. You were more of a man than a child at that point because you spent years in college developing, working on your game, learning how to play the game, learning the fundamentals. The guys today, these rookies, when you see a rookie come out of 1-year college, they look like rookies. They look like they don't know what they're doing. The fundamentals are lacking a lot of times. They don't understand the team concepts of the NBA, of a team system. They don't understand what it is to be a team, to play in a system. So they're more individualized, right? They're more in that me mentality. Right? They want that diva stuff. They want the money, the fame. They want all the adulation. They want to be the star player. Everybody wants to be the star. Nobody wants to be the role player anymore. And nobody wants to play a role or do their job, do their role. They want to do everything out there. They want to dribble. They want to shoot. They want to do everything. They don't want to play defense. Steve Smith, once again, out there giving the effort, competing against Michael Jordan, competing against Scottie Pippen. And the Miami Heat, like I said, they competed against the Chicago Bulls. They got swept out of there, and Michael Jordan was sensational. I believe he averaged 45 points a game in that series. He had that 156-point performance. I think it was game 2, I want to say. It might have been game 2. But he had 56 points or whatever it was. Maybe it was game 2, I can't remember. They destroyed them. It wasn't, they were competing, though. The Miami Heat competed for an expansion team. Right, they play with pride. And Steve Smith, to me, man, like I said, was very impressive. I was impressed with Steve Smith. And you heard the announcers talk about Steve Smith and how impressed they were with Steve Smith that season as a rookie. And you heard my man Dick Versace, once again, rest in peace, shout out to Dick Versace. But he was talking about Steve Smith, and he said in the broadcast, this guy's going to be a very good pro in the future. He's going to have a very good career. And he did. He had a very good career, Steve Smith, man. Like I said, he won a championship. He was on the all-rookie team that year. I believe he won a sportsmanship award. The guy was just a classy individual, Steve Smith, man. So like I said, I respect him, the way he carried himself, the way he speaks, the way he spoke back then. And like I said, I was very impressed with his overall game as a rookie going against one of the greatest teams of all time, the 92 Chicago Bulls, going against, arguably the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, which to me is not arguably, but you know what I'm saying. Going against two of the elite defenders at that time and two of the great defenders in the history of the game. Steve Smith was going against him and holding his own. He was, man, as a rookie. He didn't back down. He wasn't playing timid or being intimidated by those guys. Didn't play scared. He went out there and he played. Like I said, he developed the fundamentals, the skills, the overall game in college. So shout out to Steve Smith. I remember him talking about, there was an article in like Sports Illustrated or whatever it was, and they were talking to Steve Smith about the upcoming matchup with the Chicago Bulls. And Steve Smith was, talking about going against Michael Jordan. And, these guys were talking about how you lose sleep sometimes thinking about this because they knew that Michael Jordan was going to bring it. Right? I've talked about this. You knew Michael Jordan was going to bring it, so they had to bring it. And Steve Smith brought it, man. Like I said, he averaged like 16 points a game, like 5 assists, a couple of rebounds. He shot like 55% from the field or 53% from the field, whatever it was. Shot like 60% from the three-point line. The dude was like 7 for 11 from three-point range in that series. That's crazy, man. Shot 7 for 11 in a series at a time when the three-point shot wasn't even like that. That's really impressive as a rookie. Like I said, going against these great defenders. And I believe he only had 3 turnovers for the entire series. 3 turnovers. But I believe he had about 15 assists, I want to say, for the series. Only 3 turnovers, though. Going against, like I said, the elite level defensive players. Guys giving effort on him. And like I said, they had Steve Smith playing point guard in that series at 6'8". So he gave them a different look, a different dynamic. And like I said, they were a very competitive team, man. They went out there and gave the effort. Glenn Rice, Steve Smith, Ronnie Cycli, Vernell Coles, Brian Shaw. Like I said, they went to Grant Long. They went out there and gave the effort, man. So shout out to the 92 Heat, man. Shout out to Steve Smith, man, who never gets mentioned, never gets talked about much. I just wanted to talk about him briefly in this video, man. Just big him up. I don't know how many people are going to watch this video. See, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I wanted to talk about Steve Smith and how impressed I was and the game that he had as a rookie and how, like I said, the announcers, the broadcasters predicted Steve Smith having a really solid NBA career, which he did, man. So shout out to Steve Smith, man. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you guys on the next one.